Chapter 26, The Cold War. There was a history of bad feelings between the United States and the Soviet Union since the Russian Revolution of 1917. Woodrow Wilson had sent U.S. troops to Russia to support anti-communists. The U.S. didn't even recognize the Soviet Union as an official government until 1933. As allies, the Soviets disagreed with the Americans and the British over battle tactics and post-war plans. The United States was angered by the non-aggression pact that Stalin had signed with Adolf Hitler. Stalin was angry that the Allies had not invaded Europe sooner to take pressure off the Russian front. The Yalta Conference. In February of 1945, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Joseph Stalin, and Winston Churchill met to work out the future of Germany and Poland. They agreed on the division of Germany into 4 parts: one American, one British, one French, and one Soviet. The Soviet zone became East Germany, which was communist, and the other 3 zones were West Germany, which was set up as a republic. Roosevelt wanted Stalin to declare war on Japan. Stalin said he would after Germany's defeat. Stalin also wanted Poland to be a communist country to protect the Soviet Union from attack, as Napoleon and Hitler had done previously. A little side note is that the atomic bombs had not been tested yet, but President Roosevelt knew the Americans were very close. The United Nations. This was created as a new international peacekeeping organization. The League of Nations, founded after World War I, had failed mostly because the United States refused to join. This time, the United States Congress supported the idea. The charter stated that its members would try to settle the differences peacefully and would promote justice and cooperation in international problems. Also, they would try to stop wars from starting and take effective collective measures to end those that did break out. Harry S. Truman becomes president. The death of President Roosevelt brought Vice President Harry S. Truman into the presidency. He may have been the least prepared vice president in the United States' history. Roosevelt did not share much information with Truman. The Potsdam Conference. Truman's first meeting with Stalin occurred in June 1945 outside of Berlin. Truman happens to mention to Stalin that the United States had a new weapon of extraordinary power. Stalin, from spies, had knowledge of the atomic bombs, yet he remained poker-faced. But on the inside, he's very concerned that the U.S. has this advantage over the Soviets. Because of this, satellite nations are countries subject to Soviet domination on the western borders of the USSR. They also serve as buffer zones to ground attacks. Buffer zones means if a country wanted to attack the USSR, that country's armies would have to march or travel through these buffer countries before they could get to the Soviet Union, thus hopefully giving the Soviet Union fair warning and tire the other armies out. The Iron Curtain. Winston Churchill came up with this name in asking the United States to help contain the USSR and keep them from domination and oppression of communism. The Cold War was a competition between the United States and the USSR, which set the tone for power and influence in the world. 50 years until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the 2 countries came close to nuclear war a few times. Containment is the U.S. policy in which the United States must be patient but firm and vigilant in containment of the Soviet expansive tendencies. The Truman Doctrine. Every nation must choose between alternate ways of life. The choice too often is not a free one. One way of life is based upon the will of the majority. The second is the will of the minority forcibly imposed upon the majority. I believe the U.S. must support free people resisting subjugation, conquest, by armed or outside pressures. So thus, the United States would fight communism for a long time into the future.